Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, it's so nice to see everybody, and welcome to those of you who are live streaming. It's always wonderful to know that you are there participating with us, and we do hear from you from time to time, so it's wonderful that you are a part of our larger congregational community on this Shabbat. We're going to continue with the lighting of our candles on page 3. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Friends, I don't think I need to tell you that the last couple of days have been filled with issues and concern and also some exhilaration. Yesterday we had a very climactic session of the January 6th Committee of the House of Representatives, and today the abandonment of Roe versus Wade by the Supreme Court. And I feel compelled to talk about both of them tonight. In these first few minutes, I want to address the issue of the Supreme Court decision, and then in the Devar Torah period, I'm going to talk about what I take to be the meaning of what is going on in our country through the prism of what is happening in the House of Representatives Select Committee. As we know, the Supreme Court decision today goes as follows. We therefore hold that the Constitution does not confer the right to an abortion. Roe and Planned Parenthood versus Casey must be overruled, and the authority to regulate abortion must be returned to the people and to their elected representatives. We had two responses, at least, one from Joe Biden and another from Merrick Garland. Joe Biden said that this is a sad day for our country, taking away a constitutional right. In fact, they didn't limit it. It was not a compromise decision, but they took it away. And Merrick Garland made the following comment. Today, the Supreme Court overruled Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey and held that the right to abortion is no longer protected by the Constitution. The Supreme Court has eliminated an established right that has been an essential component of women's liberty for half a century, a right that has safeguarded women's ability to participate fully and equally in society. And in renouncing this fundamental right, which it had repeatedly recognized and reaffirmed, the court has upended the doctrine of stare decisis, a key pillar of the rule of law. The Justice Department strongly disagrees with the court's decision. This decision deals a devastating blow to reproductive freedom in the United States. It will have an immediate and irreversible impact on the lives of people across the country. And it will be greatly disproportionate in its effect, with the greatest burdens felt by people of color and those of limited financial means. There is the claim by proponents of the reversal of Roe versus Wade that in fact R v. Wade undermined important democratic principles by announcing a rule, a law, that applies uniformly to all the states and to all peoples. And the claim has been made that this decision, by returning the issue to the states, reinforces and reaffirms a democratic principle. I find this to be a hollow and bankrupt contention, but this is a matter for another time. A few statistics. As of now, 5 states already have trigger laws which will now be executed and banning, criminalizing abortion. 15 more states are near and likely will prohibit and or restrict abortions. These 20 states have 25.5 million women of reproductive age, and 9 more states are ready to move as well. One could claim that the states should take charge of this, but constitutional rights are not up to the states. Freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly apply by definition to all peoples in all states. Due process under the law is not given over to the states. And if we have a constitutional mandate, neither should that, in my opinion, be up to the states as well. It seems to me prudent, though, at this point, to say just a few words about the Jewish view of abortion. Now, the premise behind the reversal of Roe versus Wade is that at the moment of fertilization, the fetus becomes a person. And being a person now establishes all the rights of personhood to the fetus. This is not the Jewish tradition's view. The Jewish tradition's view, and I believe it's fair to say that this applies across the Jewish spectrum, is that the fetus has potential personhood and therefore a prima facie right to be born, but it is not an absolute right. In this sense, feticide is not murder. Feticide is not infanticide. Once the baby is born, the baby has all the rights of a person, and before that, only a prima facie right. The status, therefore, of the fetus is to be taken in conjunction with the rights of the mother. And here we have the notion, the powerful notion, of a rodef. A rodef is a pursuer. And in Jewish law, when someone is pursued by another entity, there is the right for self-defense. If somebody comes at me with a knife, I have a right to try to kill that person first. If the fetus is not threatening the mother, the prima facie right becomes increasingly absolute. If the fetus is threatening the mother, then abortion is permitted, in fact, mandated, because the status of the mother is by definition superior to the status of the fetus. The fetus has a right to be born, but it's only a prima facie right. The fetus, according to Jewish tradition, is not mere tissue. It is a person on the way. This then raises the question, under what conditions is the fetus pursuing the well-being, the health of the mother? And on this, Jewish groups are arrayed across a continuum. The more traditional the more the restrictions on the definition of pursuing the mother, harming potentially the mother. Strict Jewish traditions will say only if the mother's life is in danger or there's a grave threat to the mother's health. In other words, the notion of harm is limited to physical. But what about economic harm? What about the family who is on the edge of poverty already, and one more individual in the family will put it over the edge? What about psychological harm? That the family is already under duress, and the mother-to-be is under deep psychological anxiety and pain. Are these relevant to the question of the pursuit of the mother by the fetus? The more liberal, the more possible categories there are. I think it's fair to say in the Jewish tradition, the woman, the mother, does not have an absolute right to make a choice. Now, we live in a society in which freedom of choice is nearly universal, and therefore these two goods are in some conflict with one another. But we in the Reform movement have a very expansive view of threats to the mother. And in this sense, not only does the Jewish view represent an idea that is contrary to the premise of the Supreme Court decision, but it also raises the question of freedom of religion. We are now going to be under the impact of premises and conclusions inimical to our understanding of the situation. So it seems to me that we have entered a period of crisis, and how it is we're going to respond, I think, is still up in the air. It's quite clear to me, though, and maybe to you, that the question of who represents us and who can gather with colleagues to pass laws, to, let us say, solidify the constitutional right to an abortion, is now up to our elected representatives. And this puts the burden of the future on us. Okay, I now want to turn back to our prayer book and turn us to page 26. And will you please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish? Bagala, bagala, ubizman kariv. Amen. Yehish me'raba mevarach, le'olam lo me'omaya, yitbarach. V'yishtabach v'ta'ar v'yitroma v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kurisha
Richu
le'elam kol birchata v'shirata
Tushbachat Nechemata Damiran Bialma. Amen.
On page 33, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Kevod Malchuto We read together. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. You may be seated, and let us join together in the chanting of the V'ahavta, found on page 36. הדברים האלה נוהי מצבך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Let us turn to page 39 and we'll read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there was one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. We turn now in our prayer books to page 46, and we rise for the Amida.
וזוכר חסרות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניך מחכה לחיים בחסד, מחייך טוב ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מחמוך בגבורות, ומדום מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצליח ישוע, ונאמנת לחיות הכל.
ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
We turn to page 53. And at the top of the page, let's read together. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence like lightning illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated. And we continue now on page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael, bashalom. We have moments now for silent prayer.
My voice is powerful.
friends, our Torah portion for this Shabbat, Shlach Lecha, which means send, God's imperative to Moses to send scouts, spies, to discover the nature of the land into which they are, for all intents and purposes, about to go. And what we have here in this Torah portion is one of the two main crises of the wilderness period. The first crisis is the Golden Age, the Golden Calf event, and the second is this one. We'll call it the crisis of the spies. And one inference we can make from this phenomenon is that the biblical author and editor, they are too wise to propose the ideology of a golden age at the beginning. Things were wonderful at the beginning, and then they went downhill after that. Well, of course, we have the Garden of Eden story, but that is soon over. And then we face the realities of human nature, both individuals and community. And even though the Israelites are on their way to the Promised Land, the crises of human nature are not muted. The great basketball coach of Duke University, Mike Krzyzewski, said that his greatest enemy as a coach is human nature. And indeed, the Bible takes very, very seriously the depredations deep in our souls and tries to find ways to mollify them, ways that create an antidote, the possibility of living productively together. And in this Torah portion, we have yet another expose of the waywardness of human nature. And what I want to do is I want to take us through briefly this crisis and how it is dealt with. Never once and for all time. Crises continue. Do I have to say this out loud? Crises continue to manifest themselves down to the present day. What's the situation? Moses, under God's direction, chooses an emissary from each of the 12 tribes, and they go north to discover the nature of the land. And they come back with the following report. At the end of 40 days, they returned from scouting the land. They went straight to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran, and they made their report to them and to the whole community as they showed them the fruit of the land. And this is what they told them. We came to the land you sent us to. It does indeed flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. However, the people who inhabit the country are powerful, and the cities are fortified, very large. Moreover, we saw the Anakites there. Amalekites dwelt in the Negev region. Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites inhabit the hill country. Canaanites dwell by the sea and along the Jordan. This is not an empty land. This is a land already replete with peoples. How do the spies interpret what they have seen? First, we have Caleb. Caleb hushed the people before Moses and said, "Let us by all means go up, and we shall gain possession of the land, for we shall surely overcome it." But 10 of the 12 spies gave a very different interpretation. But the men who had gone up with him said, "We cannot attack the people, for it is stronger than we are." Thus they spread calumnies among the Israelites about the land they had scouted, saying, "The country that we traveled and scouted is one that devours its settlers. All the people that we saw in it are people of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the Anakites, and we looked like grasshoppers to them and also to ourselves." The people's response. The whole community broke into loud cries, and the people wept that night. All the Israelites railed against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in the land of Egypt, the whole community shouted at them, or if only we might die in this wilderness. Why is the Lord taking us to that land to fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be carried off. It would be better for us. Now listen to what the people are feeling and saying. It would be better for us to go back to Egypt. And they said to one another, let us head back. This is the crisis. The crisis in which chaos within the community is looming. And it's not chaos from without, it's chaos from within, at the very heart of the spirit of the people. What is under threat here? The very promise of liberation and freedom. There is one word that characterizes what is happening here. No. We are not going forward. Let us go back. We don't want to go off into a new adventure. We want to go back to where we were comfortable. This is the counter-revolution. Back to Egypt. The comforts of autocracy, the comforts of tyranny, the comforts of what we knew, the comforts of having a predictable meal, law and order, predictability. How did the leaders respond to this revolution from within? First, Caleb, now along with Joshua. And Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, of those who had scouted the land, rent their clothes and exhorted the whole Israelite community, saying, the land that we traversed and scouted is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us into this land, a land that flows with milk and honey, and give it to us. Only you must not rebel against the Lord. Have no fear then of the people of that country, for they are our prey. Now think about it. The masses of people are uneasy and restless and want to go back to safety. Caleb and Joshua stand against the mighty multitude. They rise to the occasion with boldness and with confidence. Under duress, when, as the Torah says, the whole community threatened to pelt them with stones, Caleb and Joshua affirm the plan. The land is exceedingly good, but the plan requires optimism. It requires our participation. It requires courage, a willingness to move into a better place that is inherently unknown, as the future always is. Caleb and Joshua said to them, don't allow the dream to die. What about the responses by God and by Moses? And the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people spurn me? How long will they have no faith in me, despite all the signs that I have performed in their midst? I will strike them with pestilence and disown them, and I will make of you a nation far more numerous than they. Even the leader, even God, has become dispirited. How much easier it is to instill fear than hope. Those who are fear-mongers always have the advantage, because fear is something we all feel, whether acutely or recessively. But hope takes courage. Hope takes a feeling of the reality of the not yet. God is despondent, but Moses steps forward. Moses said to the Lord, when the Egyptians, from whose midst you brought up this people in your might, hear the news that you are abandoning the people, they will tell it to the inhabitants of that land. Now that they have heard that you, O Lord, are in the midst of this people, that you, O Lord, appear in plain sight when your cloud rests over them, and when you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, if then you slay this people to the very last person, the nations who have heard your fame will say, it must be because the Lord was powerless to bring the people into the land he had promised them on oath to the ancestors and slaughtered them in the wilderness. Therefore I pray, let my Lord's forbearance be great, as you have declared. And now Moses reads to God the details of who God is. Let me tell you, God, who you are, in case you have forgotten. The Lord, slow to anger and abounding in kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression, yet not remitting all punishment, but visiting the iniquity of the parents upon the children, upon the third and fourth generations. Pardon, I pray, the iniquity of this people according to your great kindness, as you have forgiven this people ever since Egypt. In other words, Moses tells God how he should be responding. And God's response is, I pardon as you have asked. Notice the behavior of Moses. God has said to him, I will abandon this people and I'll make you the new Abraham. You get to be the great ancestor of the people. I'm giving you this honor. And Moses has two choices. Wow, really? Thank you very much. I accept. Moses does not accept. He is selfless. He eschews special honors for himself because he is concerned with the well-being of the people. Secondly, he presents a picture of reality. What will others think? He rises to the rhetorical challenge to find a way to reach God's inner nature and to have God change God's mind. In other words, he stands against authority in the name of values, even to God, God's self. Moses is devoted to an idea. And ideas, especially ideas that are ideals, are always guesswork. What has to be cultivated is desire, a desire animated by aspiration. We bring those ideals to life through wanting them. And Moses wants to have those ideals come to life. What are they? Freedom, autonomy for his people, living the life according to their own lights. I want to ask the following question. Given what I've read to you, what is it that saved the situation? For God relents, and the march continues. The dissidents are punished, but the people go forward. What is it that saved it? Not God, not chance, not luck, not the people, character. The character of Joshua and Caleb and Moses is what saved the situation. What is character? Character is resilience, firmness of resolve under pressure. Even under the massive resistance of those who resist, accompanied by threats. Character expresses itself through courage. It expresses itself through a refusal to put oneself first, which amounts to a capacity for humility. The world does not revolve around me. I revolve around the world and the world's values. Character is loyalty to one's oath and to one's stated promises. You want me to lead the people? I don't want to. I want you to. I don't want to. Moses is realistic at the beginning. This is a tough challenge. It's not going to be accomplished overnight or even in 40 years. And Moses is likely to die before the mission is accomplished. But nevertheless, he finally relents, and with all of his heart and all of his soul, he leads the people in a promise to the oath that he took, even when it's in tension with his own well-being. Character is represented by a firm and unshakable commitment to values and resistance to any threats to those values. Character, therefore, is a settled disposition to do the right thing. A settled disposition amounts to instincts born of good upbringing, ethical mentors, and the refinement that comes from prevailing in similar situations under stress. Character is cultivated through action, the action of oneself and the action of others on oneself. John Wooden, some of you know who John Wooden was, the fabled basketball coach of the UCLA Bruins, who happened to win 10 national championships between 1964 and 1975. And John Wooden said the following: "It takes time to create excellence. If it could be done quickly, more people would do it." Character takes time, and it takes resolve. And it takes the resolve that is going to be immovable under pressure and in crisis. I recently came across a quote on integrity attributed to Sir Thomas More. When a person takes an oath, he is holding his own self in his hands, like water. And if he opens his fingers, then he needn't hope to find himself again. Yes, Moses helped God to split the Red Sea. Yes, he brought down the Ten Commandments. Yes, he oversaw the construction of the Mishkan in the wilderness. Yes, he led the people for 40 years. Caleb and Joshua, yes, they're celebrated for their military prowess. But what is most moving about Moses and Caleb and Joshua is their ability, through the reality of a settled moral character, to rise to the occasion in moments of crisis. Indeed, character, powerfully revealed in moments of crisis, can save a family, can save a community, and can save a country. Our tradition features in its very origins people of character: Abraham, Moses, Joseph and his brothers, eventually, David, eventually Jeremiah, Esther, Ruth. One of the great themes of the Bible is the reach to which people can climb in moments of crisis. Some will fall, and some will continue to rise. And this is the drama of the crisis that they were in and the crisis that we are in. And I want to conclude by saying, thank God for people of character. Amen. At this point, we always pause to think of those individuals, members of our family, circle of friends, who are ailing now of body, of mind, of spirit. I'm going to read the list that I have, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to mention out loud or to yourselves the names of those about whom you are thinking so that we can add our prayers to your prayers for their return to health. Ellen Greenbaum Brooks, Amelia Hegarty, Gary Husson, Maddie Jefferson, Byron Krantz, Dr. Anna Majerovich, Richard Moore, Shani Novak, Betty Pickus, Bob Shippey. Let us sing together the Mishaberach. You can find it on page 253. We continue now in our prayer books on page 282, and as you are able, I invite you to rise for the Aleinu. You may be seated. And we continue now on page 291 as we prepare for the recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and our words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives most fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world, and each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We think especially of those members of our congregational family whom we lost during this past week. Joseph Dempsey, Shirley Goldberg, Leonard Goldstein, Janet Kirsch, Betty Lev, Rana Rosenthal. And we think as well of those individuals who have been laid to rest during the past 30 days. Phyllis Casrill, Paula Lassman, James Herman, Matteo P. Kretsch, Ethan David Lime, Jeffrey Friedman, Nancy Rose Sternheimer Friedman, Victoria Ganger, Adele Gold, David Resnick. And we take into our hearts those individuals whose yahrzeits occur at this time. Sam Benjamin, Hedwig Elizabeth Blostein, Scott Braverman, Jean Brown, Harry L. Charnas, Michael H. Cohn, Nathan Cohn, Marjorie Ann Davidson, Erwin S. Dushan, Jared Allen Falb, Minnie B. Fischel, Barrow Forsheimer, Simon Friedman, Ralph Selig-Führer, Dr. Aladar Galerter, Josephine Asherman Gerson, Samuel L. Gerson, Manning J. Glick, Jesse H. Goulder, Julius L. Greenfield, Samuel Greenfield, Joseph Hartzmark, Rosalind Gitson Held, Mildred Jacobs, Albert C. Kahn, Alan D. Kendis, Bertha Ann Kipperman, Minnie Klausner, Leah Greenberger Klein, Sarah Kleinman, Edward A. Krause, Bertram J. Krongold, Bessie Luton, Michael S. Levin, Richard E. Levine, Saul Libman, Michael David London, Arthur Joseph Mandel, Shirley Mandel, Oscar Mann, Nathan Markman, Ruth Rosenthal Marcus, Albert Mendelson, Gertrude Gottfried Milner, Ernest N. Pollack, Jacob Rosenfield, Bennett Rosenthal, Emma E. Ross, Edith W. Roth, Iris Sachs, George L. Samuel, Dr. H. Charles Schock, Anna Selman, Dr. Stuart B. Sheldon, Goldie Smith, Hilda E. Solomon, Jesse F. Solomon, Samuel S. Strauss, Eileen Weil, Gus Whitman, Henrietta Jenny Weingest, Mildred Wintner, Fred Zimmerman. If anyone at this point would like to mention the name of a loved one or a friend, please do so at this point. And now, as has been our custom in recent months, I'm going to invite those who are observing the Shiva period, the first 7 days after the death of a loved one, if you wish to please rise. And those who are observing the Shloshim period, the first 30 days after the death of a loved one, please rise. And those who are observing the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, please rise. And now, as a caring congregation, our griefs and sympathies being mingled, we all rise now to sanctify the name of our God with the words of the Kaddish found in our prayer books on page 294, as we say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon of yomeichon v'chayedechol beit Yisrael, Ba'agalav izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudashah parihu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us, and let us say together, Amen. You may be seated. And as has been our custom as well, we always follow the Kaddish with Shehechianu moments of gratitude, moments of blessing. And we have two Shehechianu moments for me to read to you, and then I'm going to have us sing the Shehechianu together. First of all, to Deborah Brown. On June 27th, Deborah will be celebrating her 75th birthday. Happy birthday. 3/4 of a way to 100. And then only coasting 20 more years to the age of Moses. Yeah, right. Mazel tov to you. And also to Maud and Mel Shafran, who will be celebrating their 62nd anniversary this Sunday. Mazel tov to Mel and to Maud, and many more wonderful years together and with us. Let us sing the Shehechianu together. On the back of this sheet is the song, our concluding song for this evening, Anu Nitgaber, We Shall Overcome. Let's, once we get the hang of the melody, sing it together.
I think they already have the hang of the melody.
Do you think so?
Yes, but you are going to enjoy the key changes.
Good. Very
He
nice.
loves key changes. I do
singing the final song, Put My Watch Back On, it reminded me of a famous question, and that is, when a rabbi takes his watch off, what does this mean?
It means the congregation
It
gets
means
nervous.
nothing. Let's continue with this Kiddush together.
Baruch atah Adonai. Forgive me, friends. I was so excited by your watch announcement, I jumped the whole piano intro. Marshall. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei peri ha'afel. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu
L'chaim. And now a blessing over our bounty.
Ready, place? Let's sing it together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, haotzii ha'olam ha'aretz. Amen. Amen.
Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai v'rechet amova shalom. May the Lord give strength unto God's people. May the Lord bless all of God's peoples with the blessing of shalom, of peace. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Kathy, when do you disappear to Vermont?
Thursday I'm flying.
Let's try to connect before that, because after that you won't be able to talk to me.
Right, well, technically no, but I'll give you all the orders of service.
Well, that's fine, but I need just to check in and chat.
Thanks, Marshall.